fun to watch.
On 15.
Respect all, fear none.
Into the upper deck.
Intensity is not a perfume.
Oh, mercy.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome into MASN All Access. Thank you so much for tuning into our live show here from my apartment in downtown Baltimore. We're going to have Rock Kabako on in just a little bit, and we are taking your comments on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter as we go along. But first, the Orioles had gone almost 4 months into this offseason without signing a new player to a major league contract. That streak ended last night as the O's added veteran infielder Freddy Galvis to a 1-year deal. Today they introduced him to the fan base, and GM Mike Elias spoke earlier about what Galvis's addition to this team means. He automatically inserted him into the opening day lineup, essentially, calling him the primary shortstop, a role that will fit him well. So here's Elias earlier discussing the addition of Freddy Galvis and what he could mean to the 2021 Orioles.
Well, he definitely looked like a really good fit all along. This was a rather plentiful, kind of saturated shortstop market. And we just saw a flurry of moves last night. A lot of guys signed 1-year deals. Next year's shortstop class is going to, unless there are a bunch of extensions reached, it's going to be even more so. And so, we recognize that looking for a defensive reputation, the sort of versatile presence that a switch bat brings, a veteran status, that he was, kind of a guy that fit for us, and for what our goals were for the position. So, he was towards the top of the board. But as you saw, it took a while for the infield market to get moving, and really pleased with the way it turned out. And our hope and expectation is that he's a big contributor for us all year, and who knows, potentially beyond that. But players are always interested in enhancing their contracts, and we look for creative ways to do that when we're competing against other teams.
So when you talk about Freddy Galvis, one name comes to mind, and that's Jose Iglesias, because the similarities between these two players at the time that they were signed by the Orioles are pretty striking. Remember, the Orioles signed Jose Iglesias after a productive run with the Cincinnati Reds. They signed him to a deal that was $3 million with a team option for the 2021 season of $3.5 million. Freddy Galvis comes a little bit cheaper. $1.5 million is the reported deal, and we have not heard anything about a team or player option for the 2022 season. So fewer years, less money, but in terms of experience and production and coming from the same team, the stats line up. Freddy Galvis is 30 at the time he has been signed. Jose Iglesias was 29. Galvis has 9 years of experience in the bigs. The time Iglesias was signed a year ago, he had 8 years, and then on-base percentage, roughly the same, right around the 300 mark, and then slugging just above the 400 mark. So these two players are very similar. Glove-first shortstops that can produce at times at the plate and have both shown increased power, but that is not their calling card. What the Orioles are looking for in the addition of Freddy Galvis is a player up the middle who can contribute right away and definitely be a veteran leader on this team going forward. Freddy Galvis also earlier today was introduced to the Orioles fan base, and as a member of the Baltimore Orioles, he spoke with reporters on a Zoom call about what he could mean to this team, not just productively, not just on the plate, but also in the clubhouse as well. A guy who has been around on several different teams throughout baseball, and the Orioles will certainly lean on him for his veteran savvy, experience, and younger players will definitely look up to him as well as a source of advice. Freddy Galvis is going to take it all in stride, similar to how Jose Iglesias did a year ago. He said leadership comes naturally to him.
I think for me that comes natural. I think I just like to talk about baseball. I just like to play the game. I just like to talk with my teammates. More of the time, all my teammates, they're gonna be like young guys, guys getting to the league, and but I really like things like it's like a brothers to me, you know what I mean? After I get to know those guys, I just try to help those guys to get to the league, and like I said before, I think just come natural to me. I don't have to do. I just like to talk about baseball and try to help the young guys to get to the league.
We're joined on MASN All Access by Rock Kabako of MASNsports.com. Rock, thanks so much for hopping on. Busy week for the Orioles especially. Let's jump right into the addition of Freddy Galvis on this one-year deal. The Orioles had waited a long time before they signed somebody to a major league deal this offseason. Were you surprised that they went with a major league deal to bolster their infield?
Yeah, all of a sudden it became busy when I least expected it. You just never know. It didn't really surprise me because I knew Galvis was one of the guys who was near or at the top of their list, and they're looking at shortstop options and figuring he was going to require a major league deal. Jonathan Villar is another guy they'd spoken with his agent. He's still on the board, but that would be a major league deal. And then, the Daniel Robertsons, guys like that, might be a different story. But certainly I knew they were willing. In fact, and Mike Elias repeated this, they made the major league offer, they signed the deal, but they still are going to look for another infielder to back up, and that'd be more likely on a minor league deal. So basically, they were planning to do both anyway. So I figured there would be a major league deal in their future. I knew they really liked Galvis. They'd been talking with his guy. And really, I'd kind of tabbed him early on as a favorite. Nobody asked me, for my opinion, of course, but I said, I'm going to keep beating the Freddy Galvis drum until it happens. And it did, because he checks off a lot of the boxes. They like him defensively. You do get him on a one-year deal, $1.5 million plus another $250,000 if he's traded. And this is a guy that would have made $5.5 million last year without the pandemic. So it's a nice bargain. Jose Iglesias would have made 3.5. They move him. They get two pitching prospects that they really like. So this did make a lot of sense. And Galvis is kind of, he's a leader, a guy like Iglesias turned into, that somebody who's a veteran who's looking forward to kind of mentoring the younger guys. And his defense is going to provide a lot more confidence for the young pitchers. They need a guy who can get it at shortstop. So you have a new double play combination. So it made sense in a lot of ways, and they can go ahead and maybe move him at the deadline if he's healthy and productive and he becomes a trade chip. There's always that possibility as well, and you bring in more young talent for the pipeline.
Yeah, Rock has been banging the Freddy Galvis drum, it feels like, all offseason. And lest we forget, it was your report initially on MASNsports.com that linked Jonathan Villar to his former team. So don't worry, Rock. We are checking the blog every day, and we will give credit where it's due, certainly here. Let's talk about Richie Martin, because breaking another bone in his hand, it's the other hand, and it's a different bone, but this guy feels like can't catch a break. He had maybe an opportunity to play some at shortstop, backing up Jose Iglesias last year with the big league club. Of course, missed the entire 2020 season. Now in 2021, he now has somebody ahead of him, and he will probably be late to spring training, whenever that ends up being. But do you see Richie Martin being back in the mix at shortstop at some point during the 2021 season?
I mean, certainly if Galvis is moved, let's say at the deadline, that spot opens up. It could be Richie Martin's, or they could have him come up later in utility role. They had that big decision to make last year. There was no minor league season, so it would have made more sense for him to be utility guy, expanded rosters. We don't know what the rosters are going to look like this year, how many games are going to play, anything else. But there should be a minor league season. I think ideally they want him to be the everyday shortstop at Norfolk and continue to work on that part of his game, plus obviously developing as a hitter. That would make the most sense than bring him up later. But depending on different circumstances, yeah, he could be the Orioles shortstop later this summer. He could be in a utility role. It is a tough break for him because this is a kid who is developing, a Rule 5 pick who's never played at AAA, went right from AA to the majors. That's a tough jump. And his development was stalled by the freakish injury at the summer training camp, diving back into a bag on an Austin Wynns pickoff attempt. Ends up breaking the bone in the right wrist, which was more serious, obviously, his throwing hand. And now it's kind of a mystery of what happened to him this time. The Orioles only found out about it like this morning. They don't think it was while he was playing winter ball. He'd played in 15 games in Puerto Rico and then came back home, it appears. So it may have happened over the weekend while he was working out. So we're going to need more details on this. But the good news is a left hand, and it's the hamate bone. And you Google search hamate bone, I find all these Orioles that had that surgery. It's not, you don't repair it, you just remove it. It's like an appendix. You just take it out and you move on. It's like the pinky finger. Why do we even have it? The pinky toe. Don't really need it. We can function without it. So they'll just remove it. And it's not that serious. And yeah, by early May, he should be back in baseball activity, but it does, again, stall his progress. It removes him from consideration for the opening day roster. He gets the later start. So it's just a series of unfortunate incidents with Richie Martin.
Yeah, I had to do a double take when Elias first said they were removing the bone. I thought he misspoke and meant to say repair, but they're just going to take out the bone in his hand. Sounds like not a very comfortable surgery, but it sounds like it is a less serious injury, like you said, than the previous injury he had a year ago. Finally, let's talk about some other areas that the Orioles might address. Mike Elias, you just mentioned there that they might add somebody on maybe a minor league deal to their infield, but Elias talked about some other positions of need for the rest of this offseason. Where do you see Elias allocating resources before spring training?
Definitely starting pitching. It's going to be, it's kind of a tradition. I mean, every year, late in the offseason, into spring training, whatever, they're going to sign at least one veteran. They did it with Tommy Malone and Wade LeBlanc this past year. They're looking for a veteran starter to add to that rotation. And they have offers on the table, major league deals. Remember, they gave one to Cole Stewart last year, and then he opted out. But they have major league offers on the table. They also could go with a minor league route as well, sign multiple pitchers just for the depth. And because right now, really, it looks like 4 spots are set with John Means, Alex Cobb, Dean Kramer, Keegan Aiken. They'd like to have that veteran to slot in there as well and not have to rush some guys yet. And later on, that next wave will come. And again, it could be more trade chips like Tommy Malone became. So definitely starting pitching. Another outfielder, which may surprise you because they have plenty of them. And for now, it looks like they'd really prefer to hold on to Anthony Santander and Trey Mancini, despite some of the outside interest and the report that the Braves kicked the tires on Mancini. And I don't even know really what that means, but I use that phrase all the time as well. It's an off-season and trade deadline expression, but Mike Elias really indicated in a Zoom call that he's looking forward to having Mancini in camp, batting in the middle of the order, playing more first base and right field. Doesn't sound like a guy they're looking to move, but they would like to add another outfielder on a non-roster invite just for more depth. Not catcher, though. I was wondering about that. I thought they might go for another veteran catcher, but he said they've got plenty. They like, obviously, Severino and Cisco as the main guys, and they have some guys in the minors as well for depth, so they're happy with their catching.
Cough, cough, Adley Rutschman as well at some point, maybe.
Eventually.
Eventually, yeah. But kicking the tires is a metaphor that personally I always struggle with visualizing. So it is one that we have heard quite a lot over the past couple months. But what it actually means, I couldn't tell you. But Rock,
it probably could just be that, somebody calls Elias and says, hey, is this guy available and what would it take? It could be a very short conversation. Or is this guy available? I think that's kind of the kicking the tires. Is there availability? And then let's see if maybe there's something there that could potentially be a match. It's the very early stages of trade talks. I don't think they're going anywhere. If
anybody out there knows the origin of that phrase as well, we'd love to hear it because I couldn't quite tell you. But Rock Kabako, thanks so much for hopping on MASN All Access. And of course, be sure to check out everything Rock has to offer on MASNsports.com. Rock, we'll talk soon.
All right, thanks. I'm going to go outside and kick the tires on my ball.
Sounds good. Thanks. We're taking your comments on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter as we go along. Getting a comment from Matt Campbell saying, hi from New Zealand. I don't know what the time difference there is, but thank you for tuning in, whether it is day or night, Matt. Getting a comment on YouTube as well. JD McRory saying this is a step in the right direction, getting another veteran that brings reliable defense to a team that struggled a little on defense last year. And the Orioles did struggle a little bit on defense in 2020, which you might expect from a young rebuilding team. And especially at the shortstop spot, according to Fangraphs, they were 24th in baseball in defensive runs saved at the shortstop position. Part of that could be due to the fact that Jose Iglesias was limited last year and was dealing with a hamstring injury, usually a reliable defender, but he struggled a little bit in the field and he wasn't available for the entire time. Freddy Galvis on a one-year deal should help the Orioles in that category. Never has been extremely productive at the plate, but defensively, he has been very solid and he has been available throughout his career. He's played all 162 twice in his career, 2017 and 2018 with the Phillies and Padres. Didn't play all 60 games in 2020 with the Reds last year, but has been very reliable and available throughout the course of his career. And he will immediately slot into the shortstop spot for the Orioles. We're taking your comments again on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, so keep them coming as well. But our own Brendan Mortensen took a look at the way that the Orioles have used free agency over the past few years. Obviously, they have not been big spenders under Mike Elias during this rebuild, but they have picked up several key acquisitions in free agency on either major or minor league deals that have ended up becoming major contributors for them on a short-term basis. Here's Brendan.
We're obviously looking to add talent smartly at the major league level while not compromising our broad strategic goal.
Look, it's no secret that Mike Elias isn't going to be making any major splashes in free agency this offseason. Shorter-term investments keep the team moving in the right direction on the field, while also keeping room for prospects as they grow and develop throughout the system. But while Baltimore might not be handing out massive contracts, Elias has made more of an impact in free agency and on the waiver wire than you might think. Last offseason, the O's had a hole at shortstop, so Baltimore brought in Jose Iglesias on a $3 million deal. The veteran proceeded to smash all of his career highs at the plate and was flipped for two prospects, including Garrett Stallings, the fifth best righty in the O's system, according to MLB Pipeline. Of course, there's Tommy Malone, signed to a minor league deal, ends up starting opening day, makes 6 starts in total with a 3.99 ERA, traded to the Braves for two prospects, including AJ Graffinino, who was briefly in the Orioles' top 30. Malone, in case you were wondering, made 3 starts in Atlanta with an ERA around 15 before being released a month after the trade. Cesar Valdez hadn't pitched in the majors since 2017 before posting a 1.26 ERA in Baltimore last season. Travis Lakins posted a career-best 2.81 ERA in 22 games. Hanser Alberto hit 300 and mashed lefties for 2 seasons. Rio Ruiz has 21 home runs in 2 years with the Orioles, compared to 4 homers in 3 years with the Braves. And Pedro Severino was a first-half All-Star in 2020. All 3 were waiver claims. All 3 have posted career highs in batting average, on-base percentage, slugging percentage, and OPS in their careers in Baltimore. So no, Mike Elias isn't going to go out and get Trevor Bauer, but he has consistently acquired players that contribute to the major league level while also bolstering the minor league system. Nobody is losing sight of the ultimate goal.
The most important thing for us is that we set a course, we remain disciplined towards our decision making, and we all work hard and do a good job.
If you like what you heard from Brendan there, you can hear more of Brendan Mortensen and myself on the MASN All Access podcast, which is available on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. Watch it on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Really, wherever you can get podcasts, you can get the MASN All Access podcast. We just came out with an episode yesterday discussing the Orioles' outfield outlook for 2021 and whether Anthony Santander could be on the move potentially, or whether they will keep him around as their long-term right fielder. So check out the podcast as well. Thanks to Brendan Mortensen for helping produce this, and thanks to Hannah Broder, our social media manager behind the scenes as always. Freddy Galvis to the Orioles as of last night on a 1-year, $1.5 million deal, and our coverage really continues from here on MASNsports.com and on all of our social platforms as well. So stay tuned, and there are still about 3 weeks left before spring training is supposed to start in Sarasota, so be sure to keep an eye out for any more moves that the Orioles might make as they continue to bolster their roster for 2021. I'm Paul Mancano. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for commenting along, and we'll see you next time.